Now that we've learned how to strum, how to fret a note, how to tune your guitar, we're going to learn our first three chords. So the first chord I'm going to teach you is very simple, basic chord, a C major chord. And all you got to do is put your third finger on the third fret of the A string. That's the first string, the one on the bottom. So right there. I'm going to fret that note, and I'm going to strum all four strings. So you just play quarter notes, all downstrokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's try doing up and down. So we're going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, so that's a C major chord. The second chord we're going to learn is a G major chord. There's two different ways I'm going to show you how to play this. Whichever one is easiest for you is fine. So the first way, I'm going to put my first finger on the second fret of the C string. I'm going to put my second finger on the second fret of the A string. And I'm going to put my third finger on the third fret of the E string. So we're going to put them all down together like that. And you're going to hit all four strings you're going to strum. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now down and up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now the second way you could play that, if you're comfortable with it, you can bar. We call this a bar when you use one finger across multiple strings. You can bar the second fret of all the first three strings. So the A string, the E string, and the C string. I'm barring all of them with my first finger. So you want to push down hard. Now, we're not playing with the tip of our finger. We are playing with the pad. When I talked about how to fret a note, I talked about playing on the tip of your finger. But when you bar strings, you have to play with the whole part, this whole part of your finger right here. So I'm going to bar those three strings. I'm going to check it to make sure they're all ringing out. Then I'm going to place my second finger on the third fret of the E string. And again, since it's a G major chord, we can hit this open G note, the high string here, the fourth string, the one on top. And that is a G major chord. So two different ways to play it, whatever you're most comfortable with. So this is barring it, and this is fingering all three notes with separate fingers. Barring, and the other way. Okay, so one more chord, and then we can start putting some songs together. This is called an F major chord. We're going to put our second finger on the second fret of the G string and our first finger on the first fret of the E string. Now we're skipping a string. We need this C string right here to ring out. It's an open note. So you want to make sure your second finger's not leaning over on it and muting the string. So you really got to arch your fingers. You want to be on your tips. And we also need this high A string to ring out. So you want to make sure your first finger is well arched. So I'm going down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, so we know three chords now. C, G, and F. Now what I want to talk about is switching from one chord to the next. That's the key. Getting your fingers all set up on a chord and playing it, that's not so hard. Switching from one to the other in time to make it sound musical, that's the trick. That's what you need to practice. So going from C to F, if you'll notice, I'm kind of hovering my fingers over the frets. You don't want your fingers way out here, because then it's just going to take you longer to get them back there. So try to keep your fingers hovering above the frets, close to the fretboard. That way, you don't have very far to go when I go from the C. And the reason I'm playing that with my third finger is because my first and second fingers are now open to play the F. I don't have to do some finagling of my fingers to get there. They're already kind of hovering above, ready to play it. So I go straight to the F chord. And I can easily go back to the C. I just have to take these two off and put my third finger back down. So just practice going from C to F. C to F. Just back and forth. And I'm kind of hitting these strings separately. That's actually called an arpeggio, when you hit the notes of a chord separately. The reason I'm doing that right now is to make sure that each note is sounding out in the chord. Because if I don't check that every once in a while, I might be getting that, where that note's not ringing out. And you want that to be ringing out. So C, F. And once you're pretty confident that you're getting all the strings to ring out, then you can start strumming it. Okay, so now let's talk about going from C to G. Well, I'm already kind of in position, right? My second finger is right there above the second fret as well as my first finger. So I just need to move my third finger up and then put these two down. So practice that motion. Going from C to G. C to G. And you really want to practice putting all your fingers down simultaneously. You don't want to get in the habit of putting one finger down at a time. You might have to do that at first, but you really want to practice placing them on the fretboard at the same time. Okay, so now how about going from G to F? A little bit trickier. We gotta do some switching. So you just need to practice that motion of switching your second finger is going from the first string all the way up to the top string. So I'm kind of forming the chord in the air above the neck, or above the fretboard. If you can see how I'm doing that. You just kind of practice that motion. Playing ukulele or guitar or any stringed instrument, it's all about muscle memory. So just practice that G to F, G to F. And then you can kind of just practice going from all three chords. Okay, so those are your first three basic chords, C, F, and G.